It's just debt service alone on the interest, right? So that's a problem. That's money that can go to other places. But at the end of the day, I think it's worse almost if they paid that debt off. That would cause massive deflation. And so we're sort of trapped, which is why really when we look at things, the future is so certain. What is certain is that they're going to have to continue to print money to pay for the deficit. In order to print that money for the deficit, that's going to push asset prices higher. So that goes back to the third reality. The governments cannot stop printing money. So we just understand that. We go long in our positions and we just hold and we don't deal with the short-term volatility.
So what are the beneficiaries of printing more money?
Well, all asset prices for the most part, right? Because and this is
all assets, Mark, would be what? Just give me a list.
The store of value assets, right? So that'd be not bonds really, but equities, real estate, gold, collectibles, cars, fine art, things like that, and of course Bitcoin. So those types of hard assets will be the best. Now, some assets are more sensitive than others, meaning some get more of that than others. And this is also a good point to bring up, right? The government tells us what CPI is, consumer price inflation. And when you look at things, they'll show you inflation adjusted prices, but that's not the real number. The real number is the rate of the money supply growing. So when you look at the money supply growth from 2020 to today, it's gone up by about 40%. And how much has gas and real estate and the S&P 500 gone up in the last 5 years? 40%. So that's the real inflation rate. That is the hurdle rate. That's the number that we have to beat. The only two asset classes that beat that number consistently is the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. And so those are the two places to do that. Now, with real estate, obviously you're using leverage, you're doing value add by building things like that. So of course you can get much better than that. But just the average median US real estate is about 40%, right? And so I think when you understand that metric, it starts to help you think about the world a little bit differently and start to allocate capital a little bit smarter.
And then where do businesses fall into those asset classes? Like where would you put them as a risk model?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, for me, being a hardcore Bitcoiner, you know, I still own quite a bit, although I've gotten rid of my cash flow real estate. And I want to talk about cash flow on Bitcoin in a minute, because I think it's a really interesting take I have. But I've got rid of most of my cash flow real estate, my apartments, my rentals, but I still own my trophy properties, my beach house, my ranch property, et cetera, right? And the reason why is because I believe the hurdle rate for me with Bitcoin is 50% a year. It's compounding at about 60% a year right now. I'm just going to call that 50. So then I'm like, well, what can beat 50? And it's hard for a business to do a net profit of 50%. It's really difficult. Now, I own multiple businesses and I do regularly invest back into those because I do need money from somewhere. So that's kind of a tricky thing. I've sort of lowered I used to do a lot of private equity and venture capital investments. I don't really do that anymore. I'd rather just buy the Bitcoin. I don't know if that answers your question or you want to know more what I think about the economy and businesses overall.